right, as we come back together, what I'm going to first do is just read the answers across. If you want to just check what you got correct and then what you may need to still note. So I'm going to go across each strand. So P3 strand 1, the correct answers are OHA. P3 strand 2, IDM. P3 strand 3, BJL. P1 strand 1, CKF. And then P1 strand 4, NEG. I do hope that you found this exercise useful and that it really did test your level of proficiency in this moment around these strands, because they are very, very important. And we just did dive very deeply into each of these and each of the strands. And I know Ayla wanted to make a note here just about, while we're doing this, some other things we need to take into consideration.
Yeah, and we talked about this in the Phoenix team yesterday a little bit. But
Ayla, I can barely hear
oh,
you.
Sorry. Wow. That's a first. So we talked about this a little bit with the Phoenix team yesterday, but you know, the reason we have TAL, of course, is because we needed a cure for the problem of what exactly is our vision of great teaching and what's our common language, etc. And like so many cures, sometimes you need an antidote for your own cure. And so I just want to make sure that we're reminding ourselves that as we get into the details of every strand, which we absolutely need to do, and as our staff and core members do, that we also, particularly this group, need to be the holders of the spirit and vision of TAL also, right? So there will be a moment when, you know, a core member or staff, get so into the atomization of that particular habit, etc., that you can tell they've sort of lost the spirit of what is TAL to begin with, right? It is a vision of great teaching. In fact, it's just a vision of leadership, and that we apply to teaching. And you know, we happen to be analyzing it this very, taking a scalpel to every possible habit. But let's not lose the spirit of it. And I bet that several times during the summer, you're going to need to be that counterbalance. And don't be afraid to be, you can be that counterbalance and then dive right back into the details. There's no dissonance there. And I just want to make sure that we're armed with that as part of our vision as well.
Okay, so at this moment, if you guys would take out Handout 2, it's actually the rubric itself, broken down into strands with the actual descriptions. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to quickly look through what P3 does involve, you have that more granular vision there. And one of the things I do want to note is that some of you may have found this activity quite difficult. And I just want to emphasize that there's going to be various opportunities for you to internalize the rubric moving forward. Skill building exercises your team is going to do. We're going to be revisiting this at Hub Staff Conference. We're going to do rubric norming in week 0. So there are at various points you're going to be engaging in this more. So if you don't feel completely comfortable and all of this in this moment to accurately recite all of the strands, that's okay. Okay, so just kind of to boil down what you are. What is P3? Why is it important? I think just to emphasize the point that Elon just made, P3 is all about lesson planning. And the reason why we're internalizing this vision now is because this is an absolutely critical action that core members need to leave Institute knowing how to do well. Lesson planning on a basic level is essential to their success in the summer, of course, and then also in the Regis. If they don't internalize those mindsets, there is no way they'll be able to transfer their ability to plan to an even higher, a long-term level, shorter long-term level, and then the lesson plan level to make their own students successful when they don't have the support of an ISAT or an ISC. Now, when we talk about internalizing this row, think about how you would articulate this strand in your own words. How would you boil this down? And this is just one of the ways that we think about it. So a strong lesson plan really does 3 things. It teaches the right stuff in the right way, and it takes the right amount of time to do so. The right stuff in the right way, in the right amount of time. And one of the ways that my CMA would articulate is it the right content? Are they the right methods? Is it the right timing? So however you boil this down, know what the spirit is behind each of the rows, even as you're understanding what the language is behind each of the rows. And I think what's critical to note is that all of these, this action, P3, is at play in Institute. And by at play, I mean all core members are going to be rated on the rubric on this row because it is so critical. And one of the things throughout the rest of this session, we're actually going to be looking at lesson plans at an advanced proficient level on the rubric because we want to set our vision in advanced proficiency, even as we're ultimately going to expect and hope that core members reach a beginning proficient or BP level on the lesson plans. The next is P1, and I just want to make a quick note. On your sheet, P1 was under P3 because we really think that P1 is foundational to P3. So your core members' ability to create an assessment and have an accurate vision of mastery is foundational for them actually constructing a strong lesson plan. So to boil it down, P1 is all about assessment. Assessments are complicated, and so is this role. We're actually not going to be formally rating core members on P1 at Institute because the actual strand of P1 involves more than just assessment on the lesson planning level. It actually involves assessment on a long-term level, assessments much more broadly than that. But we do know it is very important, so we're asking them to take a few actions around P1, and we're holding them accountable to them. So one of the innovations at Institute last year, which I hope like some of you who are at Institute, this was pretty revolutionary, is that we do ask CMs to produce a couple of things with their lesson plans. We ask them to actually create an assessment that will test what is supposed to be tested, and to staple it and include it with their lesson plan. It is not complete. Their lesson plan is not complete unless they have the actual assessment they're going to be using in their classroom. But beyond that too, they have to articulate what doing well on that assessment will look like. So they actually have to include an exemplary student response. They actually have to fill out their own assessment because what we found so much is that people actually don't know how to create a lesson plan unless they base that in their own vision for mastery.